I'm walking through the book of Matthew right now with our church. It's in the final week of the life of Christ, and he's in the temple, and he's being confronted by the Pharisees. They come to him about the issue about taxes. Teaches them, render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and unto God what belongs to God. And what he's saying in context is that we have a responsibility to be model citizens in the nations that we're in, at the same time be model citizens of the kingdom of heaven. As I'm preaching this in the very first Sunday new facility that we just moved into, and we had to quickly build that facility out. So we're there every night, bro, and I'm tired. By the time I am mentally fatigued, I am physically fatigued, and I get up and I'm teaching the text, and I share a personal story from my life. When I was a teenager, when I had an encounter with an officer who put a gun to the back of my head, and I was sharing in that story that in that moment I had a decision to make: submit and not fight back. In that moment, I was probably going to lose my life, and in that moment I just submitted. I knew that officer, he had the gun in the badge. I came out of that with my life. And I understand that there's other men who've been in that circumstance who did not come out of it with their life.
Yeah.
As I'm telling that story, I said, and I framed this wrong, that I think we should be careful not always blaming officers for the death of black kids all the time, every black kid, because we have to learn to be submitted to authority. Now, when I said that, I framed that wrong. Someone took a screenshot of that first gathering, and they clipped it out when I made the statement about the officer and black kids, and they posted that on social media. And then people began sharing that, and then it spread like wildfire on social media, and it created a lot of hurt. And bro, it broke my heart. You know, I went away from my family, and I stayed alone for a week in a solitude place. So I'm in there for a week of repentance. And at that point, I realized, okay, I gotta say something about this. And so, you know, I made a public statement. I posted it to my social media, and it was an apology. You know, I took ownership for my poor framing of that story. Very few people can say, I wish I would have said that different. The only difference between them and me is that the world is not watching. So they get to make those mistakes in private and work it out in private. I didn't get that liberty. You know, the whole country see me made that blunder. I think it's unfortunate that we live in a culture where people can take a clip out of context, post the clip out of context, and then people create a narrative based on a clip without understanding that clip in its proper context. So it's like you judge a man's character and the totality of his ministry by a soundbite, and that's the culture that we live in.